This week, I want to talk about our presidential candidate that's going to be joining us on the show Tuesday night. He's going to call in at 8:15. His name is Christopher Marks. He is running for president for the Libertarian Party. He's a Native American Indian. I know he used to work in tech industry, and had a great conversation with him. Seems he's very intelligent, and he has got a good plan. So we look forward to bringing that to you, and I'm excited to see what you guys want to say about it and what you guys think about it. This week, I want to talk about our presidential candidate that's going to be joining us on the show Tuesday night. He's going to call in at 8:15. His name is Christopher Marks. He is running for president for the Libertarian Party. He's a Native American Indian. I know he used to work in tech industry, and had a great conversation with him. Seems he's very intelligent, and he has got a good plan. So we look forward to bringing that to you, and I'm excited to see what you guys want to say about it and what you guys think about it. This week, I want to talk about our presidential candidate that's going to be joining us on the show Tuesday night. He's going to call in at 8:15. His name is Christopher Marks. He is running for president for the Libertarian Party. He's a Native American Indian. I know he used to work.
Crushing that candy shit, man.
It's not Candy Crush, it's some toy something. It's brainless. Probably kills brain cells.
It's a fortunate place with the crazy place to take me on a chase to the end. Until the end of our day, when we spend, with every second we take, with all our friends. We together, this here in the present, we be flying in the desert, we be them. Until the end of our day, when we spend, with every second we take, with all our friends. We together, this here in the present, we be flying into heaven, we be. And we be giddy, free imagination. Ordinary, pretty, I got city to civilization. On a vacation, change your clothes in the bar. I ain't listeners out, better let them fathom my heart. Instead I say, oh, we gotta have them. We have to what we have to, gotta chop to hit a sale. So we're digging in it, everyone is what I'm trying to work. And now I'm searching till my feet hurt. Rows and forks and casts and cords and mowing and blind the water side. Shout out to my bird car. We heading south for the winter. I give it that good go tip. Someone through this mess that we start home. We set the motion, coasting as we go. When we start searching, working, flirting, decided to convert things. I was thirsty, hurting, searching, working, flirting, started my converting, serving, and then we serving this life. So I was thirsty, hurting, searching, working, flirting, started my converting, serving, and then we serving this life. Suicide, rock, low, gangs. I see kick back, sipping hydro, danger. Town music, green and white, just singing on the back right. Some with your girl, see it, nigga, better act right. Flipping down, calm, sassy. Fist beating, just bumping life, let me
2 minutes.
Both hands on the wheel for the funk. Baby, we some bad motherfuckers when we rockin' this rhythm. We got the funk. Baby, we some bad motherfuckers like bad motherfuckers like that. I'm a gangster when I'm riding my bike. And I'm a gangster when I turn up the light. And I'm a gangster when I'm doing my thing. I got this whole city rockin' like whole city rockin' like. And I'm a gangster when I'm riding my bike. And I'm a gangster when I turn up the light. And I'm a gangster when I'm doing my thing. We got this whole city rockin' like whole city rockin' like. Yeah, I'm a gangster in my city to first your birthday. I don't care, I just feel
We got 4 popping off.
Got what?
We got 4 popping up. 40 seconds.
Since you can hear us talking. You got a mic
Right
on?
through that mic.
You got a mic on somewhere?
What's up, guys? Dick Liberty here. Dick and Dilly, we bringing it at you. What's going on, Dilly? How you doing, man?
Hanging in there, man. This shitty weather for the past couple of days is going to be here for next week, but
Right.
we needed it. We definitely need this rain from, fill up the pool and.
Yeah, I agree with you, but this rain right here is like confining me to my quarters, and I don't like to be confined to my quarters if I don't have to be confined to my quarters. Do you know what I'm saying, man?
Yeah, it definitely interrupts the motorcycle riding time. I understand that.
Yes, it does. I mean, how's it impacted your week this week? Has it messed with you being able to do your jobs or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, it's been super muddy. We got to play in the mud yesterday and today, so just going back to Jarhead days and playing in some mud and having a good time. So
Yeah, like digging the old ditches in the foxholes and stuff like that, right?
oh yeah.
Well, hey, I want to say welcome to everybody who's tuning in, who's joining us now. I see there's a lot of you popping up. That makes us feel good. That makes us feel like we're doing something right here. And I want to say thank you to Hood News Global and Mr. Hood News himself, because he powers this radio station here. If you don't have the app and you're listening or you're watching on Facebook, you can download and listen to my radio app in the App Store, and you can search Hood News Global, and you can find that station and us if you're away from your Facebook. So just another way to listen. It's also on the website as well, www.dickliberty.com. I think you guys will like that website. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it is. It absolutely is. A lot of hard work and dedication that you put into it. So
You know what though? It's been fun. It's been worth it. Hi Williams, or hi Deborah, hi Gina, hi Jamie. Hello everyone who's joining us. Tonight we have a very special guest that'll be joining us. I talked about it in this week's promo. I made a video about it to kind of discuss it with you.
Yep.
Dilly and I discussed it, and we're going to be talking to a Mr. Chris Garrett, okay? And Mr. Garrett is a Native American. He is going to be the 2020, not going to be, but he is running for the presidential candidate position of the Libertarian Party for 2020. So I'm very interested to hear what he has to say and what his thoughts are on the country's current status. And we're going to have some questions for him. What do you think about that, Dilly, man?
yeah, I'm excited. I mean, the competition is good, and it's great for the country, and it's great for everything that we do in life. Because if everybody was just at the same level with mediocrity or just
Right.
average or whatever, that's what our country would be. So it's great whether maybe he is the one-hit wonder to be the president. Maybe he's not. Whatever it is, it doesn't make a difference. The discussions we're going to have with him this evening should be fun, and we get to ask the good questions and
Right.
and see where we go with that. And
I'm excited to see how this interview turns out, to be honest with you. I think it's going to be an interesting interview. Of course, when we bring you this content, we always do our research. We always check things out. And I want to say thank you, because a lot of you fans out there who support us and who follow us, you guys send me a lot of great stuff. I mean, you guys send me a lot of great stuff. Hey, what's up, Kenneth? I noticed that you saw that Dilly's beard was missing, or his beard was missing, man.
yes, sir.
But I want to say, first and foremost, thank you guys to being so supportive and to providing such great research information when we put the interviews and stuff and the topics out there that we're going to be talking about. So thank you so much. So, dude, you've had a busy week this week, huh, man?
Yeah.
What has been on your plate? Because you got to explain. I know everybody's seen the pictures on Facebook, but I know they're probably looking at you like right now, like, oh my God.
Holy shit.
Is that Dilly? Is that really Dilly? So
Yeah,
can
we
you?
got to, everybody's got to grow with me with my beard over the past 16 months or so. And, became my little wild child on my face. And
Right.
So last week I explained to you last week on Wednesday, we were working in this $1 million home, and the homeowner didn't want to have the AC on while we were working in there, and I came home and I had a little heat rash on my chin, so I said, screw it. Well, on top of it, I have 2 job interviews over the next 2 days, Wednesday and Thursday. So
Oh man, that's
so
pretty
I'm
awesome.
excited. So this is the positive thing. As much as I didn't want to get rid of it, but
Right.
I love what I do as an electrician, but it's not conducive to what I'm tired of working 6 days a week.
Yeah, that's a lot, man, and you're always putting in the overtime. I see it all the time. Like we help each other out, and I see you bust your ass, dude. You're always grinding, so kudos to you, man.
Yeah, we got to definitely get another job or get into another career where there's more paid time off in the federal holidays. As being in the military, we get 30 days paid time off per year plus several federal holidays, but
Right.
they always make it up on us, whatever, we got to work a 12-hour day or even you have duty for 24 hours, whatever, it didn't make a difference. They got their time.
They got their time, you're right.
But we got our time, and since I've been in the civilian world, they get their time. They don't give you a whole lot of time, and it's time to, not that I'm old, but I'm not getting any younger, at 39 years old, it's time to settle down off this labor stuff.
Yeah, you put a lot of work in, man. You need to
Yeah.
enjoy your life.
Yeah.
You definitely earned it, that's for sure.
I get 1 day a week off to sit there and hang out with my family and my children. Even it's not enough for me anymore. I want to hang out with them for the whole weekend and get paid if I want to take a week off. So
Yeah, and you know what? I want the same thing for you, man. I really do. I think everybody deserves that, honestly. And we're working on a project to hopefully accomplish that. We're not going to talk too much about it right now because it's not appropriate. But we are working on something to hopefully accomplish that. And, I think it's been really awesome how everything's come together in this respect. And just, for example, like tonight's show, we have someone who's, what was that? Someone who was running for presidential candidate in 2020 on the show. That's a pretty big deal, man. Especially to me, and I hope so to you, because I know how much you've been watching Mr. Trump and how much you talk about him. So, what do you think about this going on right now?
For Mr. Trump and his actions,
Yes.
getting those 3 Americans back to America by just simply negotiating with North Korea and Kim Jong-un is an amazing feat in itself. And he has done wonders so far, i.e. changing all the bills, and he's trying to get the VA healthcare bill. And, well, unfortunately, the VA healthcare bill got passed over by the fucking Democrats.
Yes, it did.
And it's ridiculous. I wish we had the opportunity to go get Nancy Pelosi and slap that fucking old bitch in the face and make her realize that why are you here? It's like, aren't you here to help the American people and the vets that have protected them? And here you are, you and your stupid ass party that wants to say no is just because you guys hate Trump so bad. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, I noticed there is some pretty substantial evidence that things are getting accomplished. I have to say that. And I have to say, too, that it seems like the Democrats are trying to fight every which way they can to pick stuff apart, and I really don't get why we're so into working against each other all the damn time. I don't understand it.
I understand we got to have, the pros and cons of whatever it is, whatever bill, whatever law, whatever it is that's got to be passed. It's just, it just doesn't make any sense with all these bills that President Trump and his party is trying to pass.
Right.
And the I call them the libtards, but the
the libertarians.
and, yeah, they just like to just say no because they hate Trump so much, and that's what I don't like.
Right.
So
Yeah, speaking of that and the Democrats and saying no, you were talking and wanting to talk about welfare last week.
Yeah.
Like, do you want to expand on that part and how you feel the Democrats have either contributed to and or directed that?
Well, everybody knows during the Obama administration that the welfare recipients went up by an exponential amount of money and personnel. And it's civilians, or not civilians, but just your poor people and everybody making claims to get federal funding and help and everything else. Well, the problem is, I'm all about helping people, but they have to be willing to work for it themselves too. Like I told, we've discussed very heavily on several occasions. I'm okay with people getting food stamps and cash and whatever it is, help from the government, as long as they're working a 40-hour work week or working period.
Right.
And trying. If they have a couple kids, we know some of these people are, they just keep popping out kids so they keep getting more and more money, which you can't really tell people don't have kids, but we know people that shouldn't have kids.
And you're right. But I mean, I'm sure you've seen it. I've seen it in the service, and I'm sure other people have seen it in the service, where you go to certain locations and you're getting a certain amount of money, so you have a lot more kids when you're in that location because you get a lot more money. All right, we have our guest calling in right now. Mr. Marks is going to join us live here. I'm going to bring him on. I'm learning to work this phone. Hello, is this Mr. Marks?
Hi.
Hi, how are you, Mr. Marks?
Yeah.
Hey, awesome, man. Well, welcome to Think Liberty.
Welcome, sir.
Thank you for calling the show. How's your day been today?
No problem.
Did you have a good day today? Everything good for you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I did a lot of things around the house and got some paperwork work done.
Okay. Well, that's good. Awesome, man. Well, listen, I wanted to talk to you about your presidential candidacy run. And I understand that are you originally from Indiana? Have you always been in Indiana?
Yeah, I'm actually of the indigenous Miami people who are natively from the Indiana State Territory.
Oh, okay.
There you
Okay.
go. That's funny. I'm from Indiana as well, Mr. Marks.
Yes. Dilly is also from Indiana.
Which part?
I was born in Indianapolis, born and raised on the west side over by Speedway, Brownsburg. I actually have a sister that lives up there in Fort Wayne, so pretty familiar with the area. Well, I won't say familiar, but because Fort Wayne's grown so big, but yeah, from Indiana, so. Well,
Nice.
Fellow Hoosier, that's what I'm talking about.
I'm originally from the Fort Wayne area.
There you go. It's gotten a lot bigger over the past 20 years, huh?
Say again?
I said it's gotten a lot bigger over the past 20 years, huh?
Yeah, it has. It's grown, and quite frankly, I'm kind of happy that I've relocated to Columbia City, which is more of a small area, because I've seen a lot of things go downhill in Fort Wayne.
Yeah.
What kind of things are you referring to going downhill in Fort Wayne?
What?
What kind of things are you referring to that are going downhill in Fort Wayne and in Indiana that you're referencing?
Well, where I'm seeing the problems come about are because of this opioid epidemic that the United States has created,
Okay.
and as well as the massive incline in the meth manufacturing, stuff along those lines.
Yeah, we've definitely talked about the opioid crisis and how it's basically run loose and rampant. And I mean, even with some of those drugs creating almost zombified individuals as a result of it. We've touched on that topic, and it's kind of we see it quite a bit ourselves in the area that we're around. So.
One of my good buddies was just buried yesterday because, well, I suspect because of opioids. So, one of my fellow Navy veterans.
That is.
Yeah, that's a sad state of affairs, especially being that the United States went into Afghanistan to actually bring back the poppies for the pharmaceutical industry.
Well, I didn't quite know that. I knew that we burned quite a lot of them while we were there. I know that because I've witnessed that and I've seen it. So I don't know. Have you seen that, Dilly?
Yeah, I've seen
the
it,
poppy
yeah.
fields and the marijuana fields there.
We did see a lot of burning of it. So
Yeah.
I mean, I seeing that that it comes back to the United States, I absolutely believe that.
I believe it too.
Yeah, it's with no doubt. It's definitely here for sure.
So, Mr. Marks, what made you decide you wanted to run for president? And for the viewers, if I haven't stated it correctly, it's for the Libertarian Party. Is that correct?
That is correct. I am running for the Libertarian Party for the presidential position in 2020. And I think what really motivated me was because of all of the law research that I had done over the last 6 years.
Okay. I was going to ask you about the law
And,
research, actually, but please continue.
One of the things that I discovered through all of my law research that I was doing is the reason why our courts are operating unconstitutionally is because of this Emergency Powers Act that has been in place in the United States since 1933.
Okay, that's
Most
an act.
recently, Donald Trump re-signed that thing in 2017.
Okay, and that's the one you were referencing in your conversation with C.J. Abernathy out in South Dakota. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Does he also have plans to join in political arena?
Yeah, actually, CJ is running for the gubernatorial position in South Dakota, and one of the reasons why I work so cooperatively with him is because there are 9 Indian reservations in the South Dakota territory, so they have a lot to do with American Indian affairs.
Okay, well that makes sense. Definitely makes sense.
Oh yeah.
So running and being a potential candidate for the Libertarian Party, what are the issues that you are planning to run on? What are the things that are really bothering you that you see that you want to run on and that you think need to change?
Can I interrupt there real quick? Before you answer that question,
Okay.
Mark, I have a quick question for you. Can you explain? Maybe it's just me. What is the Libertarian Party? I'm not super familiar with this. I haven't done my research on it. This way, if maybe it's a dumb question, maybe it isn't. But our listeners, maybe they don't understand either. I don't know.
Yeah,
but I sure.
Thank you for catching that. If I'm not mistaken, it was founded around 1971, and I think led by David Nolan. Is that correct?
I'm actually really not sure where it was initially founded off of. I just look at the current political arena that the Libertarian parties operate under,
Okay.
and the freedom they have to actually operate as they choose.
Right.
So one of the things that I've noticed is that our Republican Party, where the original intent for the Republican Party was to actually have a minimal government involvement back to our constitutional republic.
That was the founding fathers' initial intent. You are correct.
Absolutely.
Yeah. However, what we currently have is a Republican Party that works exclusively for corporate privilege and interest, those involved in the Common Core.
Okay. And
The Democratic Party has a practice of their core principles being to work for state privilege and interest.
right.
They're all about creating more jobs programs, creating more programs that will actually encroach upon the people's individual freedom.
Will you name one of these programs specifically that you're talking about?
Well, the Democratic Party are the ones that work towards creating the welfare programs.
Right.
With they create pretty much just a welfare program.
So, what would you fix about the welfare program? Like, how would you address that issue?
Well, I think that what we need to understand is that the welfare programs are actually massively mismanaged.
You're barking up right. You're barking right up my tree, Mr. Mark.
Funded off. Say again?
I said you're barking right up my tree because I'm right there with you. I didn't mean to interrupt you. Sorry about that, but I'm very passionate about this welfare and how mismanaged it is. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
So one of my core principles is that I'm a parental rights activist.
Okay. Is that what
And,
the
the
Truth
parental
Exposed
rights
is all about? Because I saw that when I was looking
Say
through
again?
the Truth Exposed. Is that part of your parental rights advocacy?
That's a group that I work closely with, yeah.
Okay. All right. So continue.
So what we've got is when you look at the social welfare programs or child services,
Okay.
a lot of this actually cost the taxpayers a significant amount of money. Here in Indiana, in the 2017 fiscal year, cost us $1.2 billion.
For the Child Protective Services cost you $1.2 billion, you said? The mismanagement?
Yeah, child protective services as well as support enforcement.
Okay. What were they doing that was mismanaging? How were they mismanaging the money?
One of the ways that they're mismanaging the money and they're acting unconstitutionally is that state employees are committing substantive due process violations,
Uh-huh.
which means that they lack evidence before they file paperwork in the court,
Okay.
which means that they're actually committing felony fraud upon the court.
Okay. Can you explain that for some of the listeners? Because I don't think some of the listeners are as adept in the law.
Say again?
I said, can you explain some of that for the listeners? Because I don't think that some of the listeners are that adept in the law.
Well, what this means is that part of the due process clause, the 14th Amendment, actually has two components to it. It has a substantive due process portion as well as a procedural due process portion.
Okay.
Substantive due process means that before any state employee, any government official, any government employee can take action in court, they must secure evidence.
Right.
That has either eyewitnesses that have sworn underneath under a affidavit of truth underneath penalty of felony perjury,
Right.
or they have to have physical evidence of a crime.
Okay.
And a crime is defined as corpus delicti, wherein you have to establish that there is an intent to commit the crime.
Right.
And then they have to have committed a caused harm of a financial, emotional, or physical nature.
Huh. So.
We know where the
this
financial
actually
is.
The state employees.
Right.
What?
And we definitely know that the crime is definitely in the financial part of this situation. That's for sure.
Right. There's a lot of financial crime in this part of the situation. And like what so okay, reform on the welfare. We've talked about some of the fundamentals of how it works and this and that. Like what do you think about requiring drug tests randomly for maintenance of welfare or other requirements that help if you're someone who's honestly in that transition and trying to make that better step, you would have no problems you'd be okay with the terms set forth. Like, what do you think about those types of terms or those kinds of qualifications to maintain the welfare?
Well, I don't think that the government can encroach upon your private lives in that fashion to come in and go, well, we're going to just randomly drug test you. That's an invasion of your 14th Amendment right, or 4th Amendment right to privacy.
Okay.
Now, see, one of the things that a lot of people have a misunderstanding of is that actually support enforcement, for every dollar that's transferred from one parent to the other parent,
Right.
the state actually receives about anywhere from $3 to $6 for every single dollar from your Social Security trust fund.
And is that to run their own program, basically, or?
Yeah, the state actually receives those monies, and then they don't even have to answer back to the federal government on what they've done with those monies.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So basically,
In the child welfare services, every day that the state has your child in custody, oftentimes through fraud upon the court, which means that these state employees have kidnapped your child.
okay.
The state government then receives $9 per day that your child's in the state's custody from your Social Security trust fund.
That's interesting.
Now, if they manufactured a disability, that money doubles.
That money
And if your
doubles.
child's an American Indian, it's 4 times the value.
Hmm.
And then here in Indiana, what they do is they push towards terminating your parenting rights, and then they'll human traffic your child for $40,000.
Wow, do you have evidence of that? Because, I mean, I've heard other people talk about how they've been separated from their child, not just in Indiana, but across this nation. People in Miami have reached out. People in California have reached out. Like, it's been multiple, New York even, actually. So, like, how do you address this as a national epidemic, being a presidential or potential presidential candidate?
Well, the first thing that you do as a president is you put an immediate stop to the mismanagement of the People's Social Security Trust Fund.
Okay.
Bingo.
If the state wasn't receiving these federal funds from their mismanagement of your Social Security Trust Fund, then they wouldn't be committing these crimes against the people of their state.
Right. Okay.
What this means, though, is that the United States, through its mismanagement of your Social Security Trust Fund, is actually paying out more than $50 billion a year to the state government, and they pay out significantly less than that money to the initial trustors, the individual people who have paid into the Social Security Trust Funds in the first place.
Well, that's interesting.
So what we're talking about here is that those monies that are supposed to go to the elderly, the disabled, and the disenfranchised of this nation,
Yeah.
that are struggling to survive off of what meager funds are being allocated,
Yeah.
they could actually live a very equitable life if the United States wasn't mismanaging this trust fund program.
Okay. Well,
So
I
that's
can
one
say
of
that
the
I agree
things
with
that
you.
I'm actually very passionate about doing.
yeah, I can say that I can agree with you that there is definitely mismanagement in some of these programs. Dealing and seeing individuals and elderly who are recipients of Social Security and other benefits like that, and I'd say there's different cultures that are a part of welfare. And I'm not going to say that one culture is any worse than the other. I'm going to say that the combination of the 10% from each culture make the whole program not that well, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And one of the things that I kind of bring up in these kinds of conversations is that as an American Indian, my people have been deemed to have a hereditary heart disease problem.
Right.
This is actually a fallacy. What is the truth of the matter is that the American Indian people, because of the living and surviving off of the federal food program back in the 70s and 80s and even into the 70s and 80s, it became culturally, became part of our culture to eat fried food and to ingest massive amounts of these cheeses,
Right.
and stuff along those lines, which inevitably led to my people developing a cultural
Hereditary heart
problem of
condition.
having type 2 diabetes.
Right. Well, I I think that's a nationwide issue as well. Not just I know it's impacted the Native American people considerably more, but I think that is actually a nationwide issue on a scale. To be honest with you, and I think it's going to increase as we continue to go along.
You're absolutely correct.
I gave a speech one time in a public speech class about a fat tax and why we should do it. And because of that speech, I got graduated from the class right then and there. It was pretty awesome. I wanted to ask you a question. CJ Abernathyus, has he gotten to Capitis Diminutu Maxima yet? Sorry if I mispronounced that. I got TBS.
He talks about it, and that is actually derived from the Emergency Powers Act, which places all of the constituency under martial law.
Right. So I want to ask you a question. How are they maintaining this martial law in their own constituents and within their own cabinets in plain sight with everybody watching, and even having people support them?
Because these politicians are lying to the constituency abroad. This thing's been going on since 1933, and slowly and surely this government has eroded away all of our freedoms. We used to be a free nation. Now we are deemed to be the most free nation.
I've never actually heard it put that way, but that's a very interesting perspective.
I completely agree with this.
Okay.
I do.
Yeah. What parts do you agree with this, Dilly? I'm curious to know this because I know you supported Trump and you still support Trump, but
I try to take the good from everything and the bad from everything and try to meet it in the middle with the conservatives and the Democrats. It really just, it's like when you're saying that the welfare system is so mismanaged and everything that follows, it just seems like it's a big snowball effect. It starts nice and slow and it gets real big, it goes real fast, and like you said, it started when in the 1930s, and look at it now, our freedom, we used to be the freest country in the world, and now we're kind of like being...
Would you consider like a sense of fake transparency?
Absolutely, I do.
What do you think about that, Mr. Marks? Do you think, like, how prevalent is the sense of fake transparency in this country?
I think that transparency is a huge issue in this nation.
Amen.
Our government can deny anything and everything, and actually, through a FOIA request to the constituency, and they just mask it underneath national security. Well, when national security is because they're afraid that the constituency will find out the truth of these matters, then that means that our current presiding government is acting unconstitutionally and they're acting in treason.
Okay.
Yes.
So, can I ask you, like, how did you become so well-versed in law? And, like, what areas specifically were you drawn to become well-versed in?
Well, I started out in actually the family court system, and throughout that I just kept reading congressional acts and kept reading executive orders.
Okay.
And it just bubbled over into this.
Did it just caught your eye and your interest, and you just kept moving forward with it? Is that how you just...
I'm an IT guy. I'm a troubleshooter. Reading hierarchy language, dumbing it down for my end users so that they can actually resolve the problem on the other end of the phone call. It's in my nature. And this was a problem that was posed to me, and I had to figure out a solution.
Okay.
That's right up your alley there, Dick.
Yeah, I like to do that kind of stuff myself. Quite regular, honestly. You said family law. Like, are there any skeletons in your closet? Is there anything that you have to divulge or talk about or need to put out before you do this? Like anything that could bite you in the ass being a potential candidate for your party?
Yeah, actually there's plenty, but anything that's actually been, anything that can be pulled up in my record and be brought forward, I can completely prove in law how it was actually illegal.
Okay.
And where we've got a problem in this nation is because we have an unchecked bar association. Our attorneys and our judges have absolutely no accountability.
How would you hold a judge or an attorney accountable?
Quite frankly, if a judge or an attorney is acting unconstitutionally at the federal level, as an American Indian, this is going to be a big surprise. I'm a federalist. I believe in the federalization of our government. I believe in the incorporation doctrine. That means that the states are actually subservient to the federal government. They're not sovereign individual nations. That's actually Tennessee versus Lane.
Right.
If I'm notified by the constituency that there is a state judicial officer or a state employee or any state government operating unconstitutionally, I'm going to actually have to put into force, make the FBI take action. This cannot be allowed to continue on. There are parents' lives being lost every day across this nation. There are military personnel that are taking their lives 25 per day.
Yeah, but like, how do you feel you would be able to balance something like that? Like, federalism can be perceived in many different ways. You know what I mean? I mean that's a broad term. How would you define your federalism? I mean, that's comparison. Is it like Marxism style? Is it socialism style? Like, what combination are you trying to put together?
Well, federalism in itself means that your U.S. Attorney General is supposed to be actually prosecuting whenever there's a civil rights violation.
Right.
If we actually had a U.S. Attorney General that was actually taking their job seriously and dealing with those kinds of those civil rights violations as they're supposed to be, then this whole problem would get squashed.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more with you. I mean, it is. The Attorney General, I don't understand why he's not taking action on some of these, the big notorious one that's on the news, on all the news medias, is obviously Hillary and all of these people that have broke the law. Right. It's like, why is, and with James Comey, we go on and on with this, Mr. Marks, but about the Attorney General needs to be held accountable on why and how come, what for he's not doing what he's supposed to be doing. I agree with you 100% on that.
Huh.
Yeah, and so what I've been doing is I've been looking around at my local community, the activist community, the people that I know have the testicular fortitude to actually take on these tasks. And when I secure the position as president in 2020, I'm going to look into who I'm going to appoint as the U.S. Attorney General and how I'm going to give them the order to actually take action to correct this nation. It's going to be quite laborious and cumbersome. But when you start knocking down that first domino, the rest of them fall.
Yeah, that is true, but I gotta tell you, it's going to be quite cumbersome. And like, I'm sure you're aware. What do you think about the most popular libertarian candidate only receiving 3.28% of the vote in 2016?
I think that the reason why is because libertarianism has an unappreciated. It made it too complex.
Okay.
I'll tell you how. Being the tech support guy I am, I've dumbed this down. Democrats work for state privilege and interest. Republicans work for corporate privilege and interest, and the Libertarian Party works for the people's rights and interest.
And
so what you'd expect from me as a president is I'm going to hold the people's rights and interests above state and corporate privilege and interest. Then I'm going to work on the conservative fiscal solvency of this nation by kind of incorporating into the Republican Party's aspect. And then, and only then, will we actually scrape the bottom of the barrel where those Democrats lie, and we're going to figure out how we're going to get those social programs to be operated in an effective way. That way we can correct this nation.
Right. Okay. I got someone who really wants to call in. I wonder if I can get another line going. I'm asking him what he wants to say right now. So, Dilly, what do you think about Mr. Marks and his overall presentation and the things and the issues he's talking about, and how do you think that's going to be perceived, being that we're obviously in two separate parts of the nation right now, and we see the cultural differences, not only like the intercultural difference in American culture, we see the differences in the immigrant culture. We see all these differences in our area. So based off what Mr. Marks is saying, what do you think, or how do you feel he's going to do, or what he's presenting? How do you feel about it?
Well, what I like that he's presenting so far is the fact that he wants to be about the people, and he wants to help everybody. From what that's my understanding. Am I correct, Mr. Marks? That this is you want
Absolutely.
you want people to be held accountable for their actions, whether all the way down from your typical citizen, U.S. citizen, all the way up to the Attorney General, all the way up to yourself. Is that a correct statement too?
Absolutely. If I'm messing up, I want people to come in my door and
Exactly.
put me in check.
And to me, there's not enough checks and balances all the way up from whether I agree or disagree if Donald Trump is doing good or bad. It doesn't seem like there's enough checks and balances for the in-betweens from your Senate to your Congress and to your all the people in between there.
Oh, you're absolutely right on that one. When you guys were talking about Hillary earlier, believe me, I've read those leaked emails of hers, and there is much more concerning things in there than Benghazi.
What was the one thing that you saw or felt was the most concerning in those emails that you read?
As a parent?
As a parent, as a person, as an individual, as an American?
The fact that her and Bill Clinton went to a child sex slave island 4 times during Bill Clinton's administration, 1 time post his administration, and the email recipient was President Obama.
Wow, I haven't heard about this. Where did you hear about this story?
I read it. I read there's a repository that WikiLeaks actually deposited all those emails in, and everybody got hung up on Benghazi. They missed that one completely. Part of the Pizzagate scandal.
Wow, I'm blown away right now. I'm not surprised, but I am blown away.
Yeah, I'm not surprised either. I'm blown away as well, though. That's something we missed. So,
Wow.
It's been very interesting talking to you, and we brought up the law stuff and the skeletons. I mean, do you want to show your skeletons out now so it doesn't come back to you later, or do you want to talk about your skeletons and what really pushed you to be part of the law?
Well, it comes down to I started out working on suing a judicial officer for pretty much financially sanctioning me into poverty because I went for a custody modification. That then escalated up to me being actually prosecuted in violation of the Fifth Amendment for a domestic violence incident because my previous relationship wanted out of the relationship, and she found out that if she initiated a domestic violence incident and got a police report, that the Violence Against Women's Act would actually break the lease, and made it to where she wouldn't have to pay $1,000 to actually break that lease.
Oh, okay.
She tried to drop the charges. The county prosecuting attorney picked up the charges, prosecuted me underneath the state, on the day that I was supposed to be in court to sue the judge. And I was actually initially going for the custody modification because because there were serious concerns that my child was being abused.
Okay.
While I was trying to appeal the domestic violence incident conviction, my child ended up getting involved in the state CPS program because the mother, in fact, actually did abuse him. And that ended up with me further developing my understanding of the social welfare program of the Child Protective Services.
Okay, so it really hit your home, and that's what burned your passion.
So I had to abandon clearing my name of this domestic violence conviction, where my public defender got appointed as a judge for the state while he was trying to defend me against the state. So I literally had a public defender who was a state employee against a prosecuting attorney who was a state employee and a judge who was a state employee.
So, I mean, I'm not trying to bring up anything harsh or anything like that or put you on the spot. I'm just bringing it up because, like I said at the beginning of the show, our viewers are really passionate about what we're doing, much like your fans and your bases, much passionate about what you're doing. It was shared with me in the memorandum for the court and how that went. So that's why I had to ask. And I think it's smart of you, and I think it's very big of you, especially to be a potential candidate for presidency, to just be forthright and forward with that kind of stuff, man. And, so I saw it. I'm not going to put it up or anything. I'm not going to post it on the screen or nothing, but I just wanted to ask about it. So I hope you don't mind.
No, I mean, I have no problem talking about it. If you actually look up David Bent, Allen County, that was my public defender, and if you look at the Indiana Odyssey, case program, you'll find that the time period in which he was representing me as my public defender is when he actually took his position as a judicial officer for the state.
Did you feel like that distracted from your case, and that's what had to make you learn the law on your own as well as you did from the IT perspective?
Yeah, absolutely. You can't. At this point in time, I don't believe that you can trust an attorney in this nation.
Not in the nation. That's a bold statement, man.
Yeah, I agree with you on that one.
If an attorney's got their mouth open or a judge has got their mouth open, guaranteed they're lying.
Right.
Bingo.
Okay.
Yes.
So last week we talked about the deep state. Are you familiar with the concept of the deep state?
What?
The concept of the deep state here in America.
Oh, the deep state?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. As a presidential candidate, what are your thoughts on the deep state? Does it exist? What does it do? How does it exist?
The deep state absolutely exists. Yep. The CIA can walk into any treasury office in any department in this nation, and they can withdraw any amount of money that they can get. And they do not require actually congressional write-off. The deep state is very real, and it is very unconstitutional, and we got to put a stop to it.
Yes, we do.
So how do we attack something like the deep state?
You close down the CIA.
The CIA?
You close down any deep state operation. You just shut it down, like hands down. You veto or you void it. You close its doors. You chain the doors shut. And you say you don't have a job.
I mean, what do you think about that, Dilly?
That's. I mean. My next question is, how do you shut it down? I mean, how, even as a presidential, can the president just shut down the CIA? I mean, how many backdoors are they going to do to come after the president then if he tries to shut something down like that? Hypothetically.
I plan on shutting down the Federal Reserve.
Shutting down the Federal Reserve. Wow, that's interesting. You have to explain that,
I
please.
consider myself to be kind of like a JFK president.
Okay. All right. So what would
one of JFK's last executive orders, and one of the things that he was doing prior to his assassination, was he was planning on shutting down the Federal Reserve. I'm fully in support of that. The Federal Reserve prints our U.S. currency, our national currency, and internationally exchanged and backed off of petroleum.
And you want to shut them down because there's no regulation on the amount of money they can print and no validity in its backing?
Well, there's that. Domestically, the valuation of our currency is weighted off of how much in debt the constituency is indebted to the U.S. dollar.
Okay.
Internationally, it's exchanged based off of petroleum weight.
Right.
We as a nation don't produce enough petroleum to be self-sufficient.
So
Does this sound like a responsible way to weight our dollar system?
well, no. But of course, you're going to know what's going to come up is, well, how do you offset that? What are you going to do to change that? How are you going to what are you going to use to validate our currency? How are you going to take it in places from oil to what?
I don't see the problem actually weighting our currency based off of actually an energy source. As an American Indian, I look to what is ecologically friendly, and I see renewable energy resources as being a potential to do that.
Right.
So I looked into a program that a town in the UK actually initiated, where they replaced all of the roadways and walkways with solar panels. Those solar panels ended up after, it was a 5-year program, after 3 years it generated over 150% of the town's power consumption.
Right.
And because the taxpayers' dollars were used to actually fund this program, the taxpayers owned the electricity that the roadways were generating.
Okay. So you would, I gotta stop you there though. I gotta interrupt you there because I'm having a comment come in and it's saying evaluation. You're not evaluating it specifically. You're talking about what can be done, and in circles they're saying, and not about what you are actually going to do.
No, I am going to do that. That is going to be part of a federal program that utilizes the federal tax dollars to create a infrastructure program that helps develop jobs while we're going through this economic disaster that this nation is becoming.
Right, and no, I completely agree with you. And Mr. Abernathy is, he is saying that he's known you for quite a while, and personally he believes you're a genius. And I want to assure Mr. Abernathy that I'm not trying to attack Mr. Marks. I am just addressing the comments and the concerns that are being brought forth that he can't see, and I'm relaying it for him. So I thank you though for the tip, Mr. Abernathy, and and Jamie's saying, okay, Gina, you get what you get. So I want to give you a chance to respond to the comment about how are you going to attack that. I am all for renewable energy and I'm all about it, and I think that our country definitely needs an overhaul in infrastructure, 100%, and I think it's a good way that vets could be put to work, and I think it's a good way that homelessness and houselessness can be addressed, all in the infrastructure plan. But how would you lay that plan out for our listeners and those who are asking that question here?
Well, the Department of Transportation is a federal program.
Yes, it is.
So why don't we just reallocate resources to the Department of Transportation to actually start developing a program to actually do this replacement? What you do is you start this actually in your most economically disparaged areas in this nation,
Right.
What you're gonna
Would
end
Alabama
up
be one of
doing
those
is
areas?
being that- What?
I'm saying, would Alabama be one of those areas? Because I think I saw something about that the other day, where they're pretty low in the poverty scale.
Well, I'm gonna have to actually look into where we have the most economic disparity in this nation, and then we're placed in the metropolis areas, and then we pipe that electricity into the local power grid. While yes, this is going to actually cause private electric companies to lose funding, it is going to promote the individual benefit to the constituency, and we got to do people first on this one.
Yeah, I agree with you. We definitely have to do people first, because it's been far too long where we've been leaving the people behind and just feeding the monopolies and the corporations and everything of that nature. There was another bridge that collapsed in South Florida. What was it, a week ago? If that, down there.
I think it was last month, but
Oh, was it?
yeah, it was last
I'm sorry.
month where it was actually inspected by the Department of Transportation, and they even said there was a red flag, and they still let people go on there and drive
Yeah.
under it, and what did you kill 4 or 5 people, 3, 4 or 5 people? I can't remember, but yeah, you're definitely right, Mr. Marks. The infrastructures and the monies that need to be allocated to these types of government programs that definitely needs to be revamped. That's for sure.
Yeah, and then when you understand that because your tax dollars are being utilized to actually fund this program, that you would then in turn own the electricity that's actually being generated, what this ends up doing is this actually will wipe out your individual electric bill. And then when you end up starting to develop a surplus of income for the federal government, this is how the federal government will then get funded outside of actually collecting federal tax dollars from you, the people. Then they have to do something with these federal dollars that are rightfully owned to you. They go into a trust fund for you. And then if you volunteer to actually allow federal government employee to come in,
Who's gonna manage this trust fund? Are we creating a new trust fund department to manage this surplus of money, or is it going to go under an existing department?
Being that there would be a roads program, the trust fund that would be coming from that would be administered by a Department of Department of Transportation.
Okay.
And then what you do is then you replace your electric heating, your gas heating elements, and your gas water heaters and your gas appliances, all with electric.
Right.
And now you have no electric bill and you have no gas bill, which means that you get to keep more of your lawfully earned wages.
Okay. I got one more question for you. And this question is kind of important to me, only because it's something that saved my life and helped me and many of my brothers in arms with our current medical disabilities and/or conditions, to include PTSD, TBI, and things of that nature, and chronic pain and all that. So, how do you feel, and would you federally legalize cannabis, medical marijuana, and to what extent would you legalize it?
Well, first off, I'm going to say something that's going to, on the onset, kind of maybe make you feel uncomfortable. I would not legalize marijuana.
Okay. And why would you not legalize marijuana?
What I would do is I would deregulate it.
Okay.
Because if you can put your finger on any part of the Constitution that actually authorizes the government, whether it be state or federal government, to regulate, legalize, or govern over a plant, I'll give you a high five, but I don't think it's there.
I would agree with you. I don't think it's there either, but, there's many plants that are being regulated and, always considered bad plants that are equally medicinal. And that would actually save a lot of money from the big pharma piece that we don't use. So it's under that corporation, guys. So I
But
would
it's not theirs, so the government has no business in it.
exactly. I agree with you. I
Yes.
agree with you 100%. Okay, well that was a great answer, and I want to thank you for coming on the show. I want to say thank you for your time. We're coming up on a break here, and do you have any parting words for the audience, Mr. Marks?
I'd just like to invite people to look into Christopher Marks for President 2020. It's my Facebook page. I am trying to ramp up my following, ramp up my involvement. I've been spending most of my time actually working with politicians from many different parties all across the nation, because for me, first and foremost, I need to make sure that I have a supporting structure before I go into this at the federal level.
Right.
And I'm looking for more support from the constituency across the nation.
Well, I think if you continue developing your plan and you get it out there, that I think you'll do well with your constituent base. I hope that you, and I think you might beat the 3.28% from 2016, and I say that because there's a certain vibe in this country that I think is going on. We kind of talked about it last week on the show, the type of revolution you're not going to watch on the TV. So I think you'll be able to beat that, and I look forward to what you put forward and watching you as you go, man.
Well, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for having me on.
All right, and
Yeah, no worries.
one last parting question, and I gotta ask this one, Mr. Marks. What is about presidential candidate Marks that stands above the current political field to include current President Donald Trump?
Well, while Donald Trump is an excellent corporate president, I think it's high time to have a president that looks and holds the people's life and interest above state and corporate privilege and interest. And I'm that guy.
All right,
Awesome.
Dilly, you got any parting words, Mr. Marks?
Mr. Marks, has been a nice, enjoyable hour. You've answered the questions that I had personally, and it's been, you've taught me a ton, and I agree with you on the deregulation of medical marijuana, and instead of just lawfully just saying, hey, this is legal, but deregulating it, there you go, bam, there it is. There's so many positives, like Mr. Dick said, that it's the vibe is very good, and I agree with him 100% that the vibe is very good right now. And to hear this, and I'm excited to watch over the next 3 years, or 2 years, I'm sorry, because we're 2020, or 2018, to sit back and listen, and I want to check out your Facebook page to see where this grows, and I wish you the best of luck, and I hope it flourishes for you, and we get to see the positive side of what you have to offer.
All right. Well, he's gone. We got another call coming in, so let me take this.
Take off.
Yeah, I think so.
Hello, welcome to Think Liberty. Who's calling?
Yeah, well, this is TJ Abernathy, Libertarian candidate for governor of South Dakota.
Well, how you doing, Mr. Abernathy? Welcome to the show.
I don't like to just sit in the chat to be look-you-lose. I like to actually participate.
Yeah, I see that, and we try to mention the comments as much as we can without derailing off topic. So, and welcome, and thanks for joining us, man. It's
some great enthusiasm there. I love it.
Yeah, we like that kind of stuff, man. That's great. So, what do you want to talk about?
Hey, well, you know, Paul, I wanted to show my support for Mr. Christopher Marks today in stepping forward and delivering his narrative to the people of this country through your show here and the platform you've given him. I've known Mr. Marks for several years now. It feels like I know what he's going to say before he even says it.
Wow, okay, I got you.
And but every once in a while, it's that new tidbit of information that Mr. Marks puts out there that it really hits home with me. And he's part of the reason why I find myself running for governor of South Dakota.
Okay, do you want to share that information with us and why you want to run for governor?
Well, I've been running for governor since January 3rd.
Okay.
And you can find me at TJ Abernathy for governor of South Dakota 2018. I am having my nomination process here in Pierce, South Dakota on June 9th.
Wow, that's
and
impressive.
So I'll be looking forward to all the libertarians in South Dakota being able to make it out there and cast their vote for their gubernatorial nominee. I hope to be the one that earns their support. I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran.
Oh,
Graduated with a
hoorah.
bachelor's degree in software engineering.
What?
Number 5.
And,
Semper Fi,
you know,
man,
I'm really
yeah.
just tired of the BS of this government, so.
Okay. What was your job in the Marine Corps? We're both Marines.
They,
We're both Marines too, so.
I can't hear you. There's a feedback.
Oh, apologies. I'm trying. Is that better?
Kinda.
Okay. I said, what was your job in the Marine Corps?
1371, combat engineer.
Oh, nice,
There you
nice.
go.
That's cool. I was 0311, I think they're called. Yeah, the door kickers or whatever.
Oh, okay, yeah, you know those people that live slave lives before they're sent out in the terminal lands.
Yeah, I know what you guys do.
Hey, you know what though? I gotta say, when I was at this TV, there's no way you could convince me in a million years to ever be a grunt.
I can understand that, man. I had one of those childhoods where I was like, I gotta be the baddest grunt I can fucking be to prove myself to myself, because I don't know what else to think. You know what I mean? But it's all good.
No, it was the moment that I picked up, this moment that I picked up corporals when people were still, lance corporals, and the way they had to, be private and TFCs, and TFCs, you gotta treat that private, that TFCs are something, it was a way different culture than 13D than it was 5th Marine.
Right. Okay, I understand.
So, but you know, I gotta give a lot of respect to myself. I mean, it's a tough job and somebody's gotta do it.
Yeah, I agree with you. So, what are the things? Thank you for your service. And tell me, what are the things that you're running on that you want to accomplish for your party?
Well, you know, in all honesty, the state of South Dakota is one of the most corrupt states in the union. You guys were talking about government transparency earlier, and South Dakota is actually 47 in government transparency.
Yeah, I caught your live talk this morning where you were talking about South Dakota being 47th and how the word transparency is being thrown around like basically like a prom date after a drunk night. You know what I mean? So please expand on that, man.
Well, see, here's the thing. You know, we talked about the appropriation of money. There's been multiple monetary scams, the EB5, the Gear Up scandals where money was misappropriated from the federal government through the state, and the Attorney General is basically stuck in this conundrum between, you know, he's actually my opponent, Marty Jackley, the Attorney General.
Okay.
The House of Representatives member Christy Nolan is my other opponent. And, you know, these guys have been in office since 2006, 2007, 2003. My opponents have been. And you know, in all honesty, they're asking the people of South Dakota to vote for the people that made us 47th in transparency. And, you know, at that point, it's like, listen, you're not Donald Trump. You couldn't have ran third party and won the vote either way. You couldn't have done all these things. You're not that level of stature. and here they are asking the people of South Dakota to vote for them, but yet we're so far at the bottom. It's an insult to the intelligence of free-thinking individuals, not to mention the fact they're depriving our rights under the color of law and a quasi-constitution.
Right.
Absolutely.
You are correct.
So,
Where did that?
you know, gentlemen, it's hard to hear you guys through this feedback. It's still continuing.
Yeah. Let me turn. I wonder why it's feedback on one and not the other. Is that better? Or no?
Let's see. Yeah, I can still hear myself, so it's a feedback loop, so I don't want to miss any of your questions.
Okay. No, you're doing good, and we're going to take our time just to get through it. What are you going to do, or what do you think is going on in the veteran community in this nation, and how would you address the issues that you see affecting your local community in a veteran situation?
Well, and that's an excellent question. So my biggest platform push is that we are all equity slaves. When you look at it in the comments, I was asking Mr. Marks, who brought up capita diminutia maxima. And what that is essentially it's Roman equity law for your slave. And essentially what the government has done is created two of you, well, or at least what you think is you. They've created a straw man you, and then there's the blood you. So there's Q on paper, and there's you, the flesh and blood.
You know, I've actually heard about this, where I don't know how true it is, but I've heard that there was something going around where you could do the Social Security number thing and get money and all this other crap because there is that secondary you.
Yeah, that's a myth, but this is still fact.
Okay.
See, when they created the IRS and the Federal Reserve, that's what kicked in the first step of this capitis diminutia status. There's 3 levels to it: minima, maxima, and then media, and each level is a different level of loss of rights. And
Okay.
the way that you symbolize capitis diminutia maxima, you guys are asking how would they get away with it. Well, first off, a lot of idiots. And then second off, a lot of miseducation, to the point where you have an entire population that thinks that those that are speaking the truth are just crazy lunatic fringe candidates. And that's what I've been labeled here in South Dakota.
Yeah. I think it's definitely a distinction of misdirection, and that it is directed in the season following the season of the agenda that's taking place in the country at the time.
Correct. And again, the point being there is that if you look at your driver's license, your social security card, any documents that come from to you on behalf of the state, they always have your Mr. and then your name in all capital letters, and that symbolizes that they're dealing with, under banking law, the individual who represents the straw man. So when you go to court and you say, I am this person, you're actually going into a system that is under admiralty law jurisdiction. And admiralty law is in the Constitution. It refers to the law of the sea and the law of contract.
Uh-huh. Okay, and the law of
What ends
contrast.
up happening is that these courts of equity are actually deciding our fundamental liberty interests, and they're deciding these things in the best interest of equity.
Right, I understand. Okay, so
Yeah, and it's slavery.
it is essentially slavery, and it's kind of
There is no, it's essentially Mr. Liberty, not to be a dick.
no, it's good, man. I appreciate it. I like the interaction. It's good stuff.
Love the energy. It's fun.
Anyway, I got distracted with that. I saw a comment pop up with the "I'm a wacko job too" or "I'm a whack job too" by Jamie, and that kind of threw me off for a second. So apologies. So in South.
Well, you know, if I'm sorry, say it again.
No, I was gonna say in South Dakota, what the number one problem that you know you need to fix? The number one. Like, is it the budget?
Well,
Is it
mine's
the
fact that
infrastructure?
we're all economic slaves and under capitalist diminution maxima.
Okay.
So after all of that, the number one concern that I have is this transparency. The fact that if you listen to my opponent, Marty Jackley, he's always talking about, well, we're going to create a new program, a new task force, a new this, that, or the other that involves more appropriation of government funding. And again, as you can tell, is that corporate interest of the Republican Party kicking in, because they're actually talking right now in South Dakota about what are called no-bid contracts, and the fact that the Attorney General would be in charge of giving no-bid contracts to people that are contributing to his campaigns, that have contributed to his campaigns throughout the year.
Right.
Creating a conflict of interest.
Do you think that the no bid contract is following suit with Donald Trump in the way he gave a no bid contract to that small electric company to repower Puerto Rico?
Say again, I'm sorry.
Donald Trump awarded a no bid contract to a small power company to repower Puerto Rico, and I'm asking that question.
Trump also has ties to the Dakota Access Pipeline that flows right through South Dakota. So I mean, I wouldn't venture to guess that Donald Trump's involved in a ton of infrastructure deals, including local government development.
Yeah, I would say that you're probably correct because he's a businessman and I don't know. Do you think we need a businessman right now?
Well, right now after 8 years of Obama and having state interests and privileges put above corporate interest and privilege and the people's rights and interests, I think having a balance for a corporate interest president to come in there and fix the business sector, but we need to get back to the people's rights and interests, and that's removing us from this economic slavery, which is why Mr. Marx's ideas that he's been putting forth for his presidential campaign, whether you're, believing he could have a chance or not, it's still solutions being provided that no other candidates are saying.
Yeah, I haven't actually heard anyone saying that at this particular moment. I'm wondering how the political battlefield is going to change over the course of the next 2 years. And I know that May 15th, there was the midterm elections, especially in Pennsylvania, and that was critical for Democrats. And so, I don't know. I don't know how it's going to shift. I don't know how it's going to change. But I do think there's quite a bit involved there. And I think that you're the second one tonight to mention, the second candidate tonight to mention the people's rights. And, that's coming up a lot, and it's coming up a lot more. I'm curious to know how you approach the problem of quantifying the rights violations versus the system players who claim the rights violations.
That last part there again, sorry?
How are you going to quantify the people who are actually victims of rights violations versus the people who are claiming to be victims of rights violations? Like, what do you put in place to kind of guide you to keep that appropriate?
Okay, now I got your question. So, if I'm understanding you right, is how do we determine between who's telling the truth and who's lying?
Yeah, basically.
It's unfortunate that in today's world we have one side of the political spectrum that is basically playing the part of all accusers must be believed, and the other side of the spectrum is playing that all accusers are lying. To a certain extent, it's a political spectrum. Well, the Constitution actually implies that there's the rights for the accused and there's the rights for the accuser. And the answer is in the Constitution, but what we end up having is state employees that don't understand substantive due process, and so they end up playing these courts of equities out to the point where we were saying that if they can kill you on paper, i.e. your straw man through the capita semi-mutual status, and the privilege that the state employees have to go after you through your straw man, is why you end up getting these legal courts that decide your rights without a jury, that deprive you of your rights without a right to an attorney or a lawyer, and then on top of that, they'll throw you into debtor's prison if you don't pay for these things, which is a sure sign of a deprivation of rights. So how do we fix it, and who do we know is telling the truth? Well, rights violations are easy to prove. If you're looking at the court record, you say, well, did they have a right to a jury? No. Did they get thrown in jail for not paying a court of equity for their right to be recognized? Yes. Or were they threatened? That's extortion, so we know that. So if we stop the behaviors of our civil rights being in these courts of equity,
right,
and we move them into Article 3 courts where their rights are protected by the jury, we are going to solve so many problems in our country. It's going to be unreal.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you there, man. And,
That's what's constitutionally correct, sir.
And it's good and it's refreshing to hear the people talking about laws and the Constitution, because I think over the years we've burdened so much on our judicial system and the legal system and our laws that we've broken the system. We've created multiple points of failure. There needs to be multiple revisions across the board, and I think we need to get back to some of the fundamentals. So I definitely...
Let me flip the script on you guys, gentlemen. Well, how do you guys feel? Because I know how I feel as a veteran. I'm running for governor to try to change this. But I want to know how you two veterans feel with the fact that this government is depriving people of their rights in courts of equity under admiralty law jurisdiction and a quasi-constitution, while you and everybody that you know and call brother, sister, family in arms are swearing oaths to protect the Constitution that isn't even enforced or applied.
All right, I'll address I'll address my piece first, and I'm only saying that because this has been really like true to me. And I will tell you that when I initially joined the service, I had a dream, I had a vision, I had an idea. I had a sense of hope, okay? Because I didn't want to be a statistic. So when I joined the service, I joined for all these great reasons and everything that I thought was going to be super awesome, and it was great, and everything was great for a bit. And then you get into some shit, and things happen, and then that illusion of a dream kind of gets taken away from you. And then you see it for what it is, and in my perspective, it wasn't the best because, again, it wasn't entirely truthful. Not by my part, but by the governmental part. And it is what it is. I can't do anything about it. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not free to say about it. But that kind of set this seed in me that makes me question things and certain authorities and certain rules and laws a lot more than I probably would have done if I had the perfect tour as a Marine and as a soldier. I didn't spend time away from my family and go through multiple families and divorces to have to deal with my rights being restricted under false pretense. That's what I will say about that.
Deprivation of rights is a total law, right?
Say again?
It's a deprivation of rights. It's under the color of law, and if you actually read into like Mulberry versus Madison, that any statute or code or regulation that is used to circumvent the Constitution and your unalienable right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. And by the way, being a parent to a child is a fundamental liberty interest as defined by the Supreme Court. So any deprivation of that right on the state, or by the state, without a jury restricting that right or taking that right through clear and convincing evidential standards, has committed a deprivation of rights in the color of law. And it's to the tunes of not just 50 billion a year that people like to throw out, but we're talking the loss and genocide of millions of people over the course of this implemented program.
Yes, we are. And I gotta say, man, it seems like you have a huge, insurmountable feat in front of you. I know Iwo Jima was an insurmountable feat for the Marines at the time, but they still took it. And I know how Marines are. How do you think, like, as a tactician, what is going to be the hardest thing for you to accomplish or overcome in starting this, or you've already started this journey, but in accomplishing your goal?
Well, in all honesty, faith plays a big role in my life. I know that that's for libertarians, some taboo subjects and some steps to libertarianism. But for me, faith is a huge part of my life. Not in the traditional sense, but in the personal sense.
Right.
And my faith is constantly tested every day. When I never asked to be the person that had to investigate Marty Jackley and Kristen Mellon and Billy Tucker. I got thrown into it to the point where what else is there to do? I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution. Once a Marine, I'm always a Marine. I always was never properly believed in me. And I'm watching my state defy people of rights and the color of law to include myself and my child and my family. And, what else there to do? So I'm thrust into this. And my biggest obstacle, in all honesty, is I'm being censored on social media. I'm actually being called a candidate because I'm speaking the truth versus trying to regurgitate the Republican Party's narrative, which
because you're not kissing ass, basically.
Agree with it 60% of the time.
Right, because you're not an ass kisser. I mean,
and again, so my biggest obstacle is in the fact that the general population has no idea how they were enslaved, let alone how to respond to it.
Right. Yeah, I think that would be.
It's a hard time in history.
You know, I can tell you that a lot of I don't know. I think a lot of people are gonna, not a lot of people, but you're gonna have your doubters and your non-believers, just like the guys of religion, you know, to create the belief. Um, I that seems like a challenge, man. Definitely does. So my hat's off to you for that, and I hope that you.
Well, I appreciate you guys letting me call in and just spur the moment here. I just, what else can we do? If we want to go down in history as slaves, then we'll remain apathetic. We'll allow these governments to continue to deprive our neighbors and our families of our rights. And if we don't stand up and say something, and actually find people that know what they're talking about and treat them with, okay, you said this, but what do you do about it?
Yes, that's what we're about.
A plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
The plan is simple. To remove the capitalist diminution maximus status. You don't allow the government to be over the people.
Yeah. Well, I agree with you,
And you do that by taking
Yeah.
away the old French flag at every capital.
yeah. Well, you're right. I think that the people should be running the government, not the government running the people. And
100%.
Amen, brother.
I gotta say, we really appreciate your sporadic call in. That wasn't planned. It wasn't anything else. Mr. Marks was planned, so we had a little bit more preparation. And he's commenting
Well, if you
too.
guys have any questions for me in the future or want to do a better interview where you guys can actually throw more questions out, I'll answer this one. What skeletons in my closet are going to come out?
Yeah.
Because you made Mr. Mark out that one.
I don't know. Do you have any skeletons in your closet that need to come out before you do this?
Well, in all honesty, there, guys, let's be honest. I'm a 32-year-old Marine.
Uh huh.
I drank, I partied. I never caused anybody any harm.
Right.
I believe in a non-aggressive educational principle when it comes to politics.
Right.
But at the end of it all, I felt like a sailor.
Well,
I tell idiots they're an idiot.
I know. We do that quite a bit.
Yeah.
And at the end of it all, I said that there's a lot of idiots out there. So those they might not be skeletons, but there's certainly a bunch of idiots in my closet.
Okay, I can understand that, and I totally relate to that. And maybe during all this we can combine and create the vaccine for stupid and be multi-billionaires. But I doubt
If you figure it out, you'll be a trillion.
Well, hey CJ, thanks for calling into the show. It was a pleasure to have you, and say thanks again to Mr. Marks for coming in. And this has been a great outpour. Thanks to all the watchers. We greatly appreciate it. You have anything?
I've got a new show I'm going to be tuning into, so you guys ever feel free to reach out if you'd like to have me on again.
All right, we'll do.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, man. And you have a great night.
Have a good night, gentlemen. Thank you.
Bye.
You too.
Well, Dilly, what do you think about tonight's show?
Oh, wow. It went from, talking to Mr. Marks. That is one smart dude, man. He's way above me. I can tell you that much.
Yeah, he is a pretty smart guy. I'll give him that for sure.
Yeah, it's. I'm excited to see over the next couple of years what's going to happen. I mean,
it is very interesting and it's exciting to me. And yes, they both sound very intelligent. I definitely would like to see how their campaign develops and what they're gonna go for and how that takes shape. I think it'll be interesting.
absolutely.
And I want to thank them right now from us for, I don't know if we're probably not your first live on air interview. And by the way, you've been heard in every country in the world, not just in the United States. In case you didn't know that, this is a global radio station, and we actually do have one listener in every single country. So,
yes, we do.
for us, it's pretty cool because if it is the first interview, we're the first ones to get you out there. So hopefully that helps you and you do well on your journeys. What do you got, Dilly? You got
I'm just I'm thankful that we got to have this education for me, especially today. I mean, I got to learn a lot about the libertarian or however you want to say that. I can't even say it right.
He's still learning that part, but we'll get it
So,
right.
but-
It's probably because his beard's gone.
Yeah, and it's been super educational, and I'm looking forward to. I'm gonna do some more research on this because I'm really interested in this. Just because I want to know and what's going on. I'm there. I don't want to be just a Republican. I
Right.
don't want to be just a Democrat. I don't want to be just an independent.
You don't want to be closed-minded, basically.
That's exactly right. And so I'm definitely gonna do my due diligence and look into this a little bit. I'm gonna educate myself just like Mr. Marks did. You know, he started family law. Look at it. He read something and then he couldn't stop, and look where he's at now.
Yeah, I agree with you, man, and I'm with you. This has been pretty awesome. I didn't expect this much, and it's greatly appreciated. So I'm gonna go ahead and say that I know you have a busy schedule this week, and you got job interviews, and you got to do all this crap tomorrow. So we're gonna call the show early tonight. I hope you guys are okay with that. I think we brought a great show to you, and again, we want to thank everybody for all the support. To Jamie, to Deborah, to Gina, to Kim, to John, to everybody who was paying attention and watching. We really love it, really appreciate it, and we hope you guys enjoy the content.
Did you notice something there?
What's that?
The list of people that you're trying to name off, it keeps getting longer and longer.
Yeah,
So
I can't
it's-
keep up with it.
So saying thanks to everybody. It's not that we don't see you, we don't, or not, are not reading what you're putting out, but from myself, Dilly, I say thank you. Continue to watch, please. And this has been so much fun. This is way more expected than what I thought from the beginning, and it's just fun. So.
Yeah, it's been a blast, man. And to all the listeners on the Listen to My Radio app and in the Hood News Global area and the Land Hood News Global fan club, thank you guys for paying attention to us tonight and for listening. We hope you enjoy the show. And that's all I got, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Have a good night, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Yep, dig liberty, living a dream. Follow us.